Welcome to Leadership Reimagined. I'm your host, Cassie Crosby, and today I'm here with Ali Sekou. Ali is making an impact across New Hampshire, from the State House to the Seacoast and everywhere in between, as Mayor Pro Tem and City Councilor for the City of Concord, New Hampshire, and as New Hampshire Housing's Community Engagement Manager. Today we'll be discussing what leadership demands in the current environment and how we can all make a difference where it matters most. Hi, Ali. Welcome. It's great to have you.
Hey, Cassie. Great to be with you.
I want to start by talking about your journey a little bit. When I first met you and I heard your story, I just thought it was so incredible. You immigrated to the US in 2012, learned to speak English, you earned multiple degrees, and now you're really a recognized leader across New Hampshire. So, can you share with us all just a little bit about how did you get here and what motivates you to serve?
Well, such an excellent question. And I think I will start where it all started. As you alluded earlier, I was born and raised in a very small village in West Africa. And growing up, the social environment that I grew up in, where everybody are willing and are supporting each other. And that's what I say, community development work. We were doing it, but in an informal way. We didn't know it wasn't organized as it is in the United States, because people are always happy and always willing to help. And I brought that same culture and same values in the United States in 2012. But as you know, English is not my first, second, or third language. So to do so, I had to learn English. So I went to Laconia High, adult learning, where I learned English and was ready to enter the higher education. And what I always say to people is that education is the foundation in any community. And when I talk about education here, I'm not talking about only the formal education, but education in the willingness to do what the community needs, and the willingness to integrate the community. For people like us that immigrated in the United States, to integrate the community, of course, we have to learn the language, but also the culture, adapt to the reality that we are facing, adapt to the weather conditions and all that comes to play. And Martin Luther King said it very well in one of his speeches when he talked about blueprints. And I had to really look at myself and say, what will be my blueprints, my life's blueprints? And I realized that my life's blueprint was really to integrate and give back to this community that has given me so much. And I have amazing mentors. You said it. When I went to NHTI, I met with Tom Raffi, who is a CEO of Delta Dental, that saw something in me that I haven't seen in myself, and many other leaders at that time. And they invested in me by their time, resources, to just give me the foundation I needed. And I always had the desire to help. And this is really where it all started at NHTI, where I was involved with the Multicultural Club. I was part of the Student Senate. I was the first since the creation of NHTI to be elected at a regional level as the vice president of Phi Theta Kappa at the International Honor Society. So really my involvement in the United States started there. But back, as I said, before even I came here, when I was back home, I helped the US Embassy to organize many cultural events where they came to my village to learn about our cultures, to see how people live, and just to cultivate that love and care that we are talking about. I organized with the American International School what we call the week without walls. So there is no walls in the learning. The American International School kids came in my village to spend time with the people in the village to learn from the culture to, of course, the food and everything in between. And that same mentality was what drive me every day. How can I bring the communities together for the common good?
Yeah. And I think it's just so powerful to expose children to other places around the world, to see how other people live, to understand what's happening outside of America. so they don't take it for granted, right? And I know you have a family, you're on multiple board across New Hampshire. I see you involved in all kinds of different stuff all over the place, Ali. How do you balance it all?
Oh, well, such an excellent question. First, I want to say thank you to my beautiful wife
Mm,
because you cannot do anything alone. Every successful leaders has people behind them, and she has been very flexible and understood my desire and my love of the community and the care that I have for the community. So I balance it to just make sure that when it's time for the family in the afternoon, I spend the time with the family or the weekends. And of course, she get her time as well to either go work or hang out with family. We have a beautiful circle of friends here that we consider family. Of course, it's not blood related, but they are people that has been an amazing support for us. As I said, it takes a community to raise children, and that's what I got here in Concord, New Hampshire.
yeah. Oh, that's so great. And in the work that you're doing, Ali, what are some of the toughest challenges you're facing today?
I, I don't know where to start on this question because the challenges are becoming greater and greater every day. And I think where I can talk about more is really how can people understand what it means when we talk about the diversity, the belonging, the inclusion. Because at the end of the day, we all have our differences, either from any race we come from, even if we are from the same mother or father and same family. We all have our sense of what we define inclusion or belonging to be. And really, every day, I am trying to balance that to see and meet people where they are at, to give them that understanding of we are all here for the same purpose of making our communities a better community for all. We don't have anything greater than a community. And I think this has been something that has been a challenge where when people see you or hear you, think differently. And what can we do to make sure that people do understand we are chasing the same objectives, which making our communities a better, safe, and welcoming communities.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know for you, living in New Hampshire, which is still a fairly homogenous state, right? And so there's a lot of work to do in that regard. What do you see as the biggest challenge in that work? What are you facing? What are the barriers, the blockades that you're facing day to day?
I think, as I said earlier, I don't look at it as just at my end, how me I'm facing the challenges, but I look at it as a community challenge. I lead a community of immigrant and Muslim, a community of colors. And in my work, I'm just trying to see what those communities are facing and how can I utilize those relationships I have to make sure that people do understand this is a challenge and what can we do to tackle those challenges. So oftentimes it comes to opportunities as well. What can we do to give people the opportunity they deserve and the opportunity to contribute to this great country and great community and great economy so that we all strive together?
Yeah, because there seems to be this misconception that success comes from hard work. But yeah, as we talked about earlier, success isn't just hard work, but there's also opportunity and sometimes luck and other factors that come into play. So, how is New Hampshire approaching that? How does New Hampshire and you in particular, how are you approaching, making sure those opportunities are there for people?
I often say when it comes to opportunities, opportunities is not a pie where people think when you eat, it's gone. So I always say to people that an opportunity is really where the community at large are thriving and what can we do here to identify those less fortunate and give them what they need. Either it's education, either it's giving them the opportunity to learn and grow in a work environment. We are lucky to live in New Hampshire, where the state, as you talked about earlier, it's a most of the time a welcoming state and a state that are willing to listen. And I personally has been very fortunate in my professional and personal life here in New Hampshire to be surrounded by people that see something in me that I don't see in myself. Now, in my leadership, I am trying to really see other people that didn't get the same opportunity. What can we do to give them that opportunity? Either as a opportunity to go to school, opportunity to get involved in the community. I mentor people. I invite them around the table, asking them. Even today, I was at a Robin Cardi when I asked somebody, identify where you want to be involved. Either it's on city committees or either it's on the community at large where you want to volunteer. Let me know what you want to do. And she said, yes, we'll do, Ali. So we are planning to connect soon to discuss that. So my encouragement to all of those communities are really to look at how can they bring those experiences and their time to contribute to the common good of the entire communities, because we all have something to offer. And then at the community at large, I ask them also take that chance, get to know people, because as we know, in an environment characterized by both task and relationship complexity, we are the change agent that we should be as global leaders. Dr. Joyce, what Dr. Joyce Osland, I think,
Mhm.
Joyce Osland defined global leader. Global leaders are change agents, where they can see imbalance factors that are ever fluid and higher challenges facing. So it's an exposure. We have to expose people to diverse cultures, diverse economies, and systems to provide them what they need to succeed.
Yeah. Diverse cultures, diverse systems provide more answers, more opportunities, more solutions. I believe if we stay focused just in our own little space with people that look and act and sound like us and grew up in the same places, we'll never see beyond our own mental models around what's possible, right? That we have to expand outside of what's our comfort zone or outside of what we know in order to expand what's possible in this world.
You know, we often say that traveling is an education. When you travel, you get to see people in the real habitat.
Mm,
You get to appreciate,
yeah.
value, and care about those. So I think globalization is a reality. When you look at yourself and you say, okay, I know it all, or I can be sustainable just by myself, then that person miss what that humanity is or what that leadership is, because we are all connected and we all have more in common than we don't. So I think it's always asking yourself the question about your responsibility toward you and your community. Because I think oftentimes we talk about our rights, but we forget about the responsibility we have. Wherever there is rights, there is responsibilities. The community won't
Mm.
strive just when one or people think, okay, I will just focus on this one group. It's called a community for a reason, because a community is that diverse group of people that come together to reflect on what the community needs and what can they do together to advance that and to give everybody a fair share to learn, grow, and thrive. And of
Yeah.
course, to feel the sense of belonging.
Yeah. And I tend to believe that, in order to be the leader that you need to be, that you have to make a daily choice to be that person. You have to have diverse perspectives. You have to read. You have to understand. And then you have to make a daily choice because we're human and our brains may have biases. We think about things a certain way. We have trouble getting out of our own way. So if you don't make that daily choice, you can very easily slip back into some of those unconscious processes that just keep us in the status quo. keep us doing those same things that aren't necessarily working. But I've
And
heard you mention leadership a couple times. So how are you thinking about leadership, Ali?
so, in my perspective, I think leaders are people that successfully look at strategies and observe in a global context to local challenges and trying to, and when I'm talking about global context here, looking at all the factors of a community and are willing to listen to those communities' needs and then put a plan together to implement those needs where possible. Because as we know, change is not always easy, but most often time change are good.
Yeah, and that it's interesting that actually amplifies what Kent was talking about last month, right? About how we have to listen first in order to figure out what people need in order to build communities where people want to engage and want to be part of it. What do you think the difference is between initiatives that are really successful and then those initiatives that just tend to, fade away into nothing?
So during my decades in America, or a little more than a decade in America, I will say that there is many confusion around the initiative because oftentimes people look at initiative on a national level, they forget about the local and community level. So I think what is important is looking at each initiative and its effect on a community, state, and of course, national level and beyond to the global level. We as leaders have to adapt at managing diversity, diverse teams, and understanding the needs of various stakeholders. As we always said, that's just a business decision, right? But when it comes to those initiatives that we want to implement, it goes the same way. When we talk about stakeholders, who are those consumers that consume the product we have, or that contribute to that success of that business? So if the consumers are as diverse as they are, what can we do to give all those consumers the same opportunity to strive, the same opportunity to be part of the change that we are looking to make? And oftentimes initiatives die because there's no buy-in or people don't interpret it in a better way that it should, or for political reason, people change the mission of those initiatives. So I think there is a many factors that come to play when we are talking about initiatives. And that's why I described it from national to local or from politics to anything that comes to play. So I think what have been successful in many initiatives is really the listening part of it, empathy behind it, and of course, the willingness and the courage to implement. Because as I said, change is not easy, and you have to be a leader to look at the reality that is facing that specific initiative you are trying to bring and see if this is a common good, not just for one or two. But if this is a common good, because the initiative has to be a common good, and then try to emphasize the importance of it by letting the community at large or your team know the why behind this specific initiative. And I think sometimes we cannot emphasize enough the why and the importance of it. The initiative is not only to affect one group or one another, for a common good. And any initiative that is not founded for a common good usually are not successful. And if it's founded for a common good, what can we do to bring those community together to share the why behind it?
Yeah, I've been thinking about this a lot lately, this idea of leaders and what does it mean to serve and what does it mean to be in service to people, whether you're leading at a company, whether you're leading a nonprofit, leading a government, at the highest levels, it doesn't really matter. I think anytime that I think about leaders who don't have anybody around them who say no, right? If you have people around you who refuse to say no or who always say yes to everything you want to do, you're probably going down the wrong path. I think leaders need smart people around you who are willing to say, no, that's not a good idea. Or, hey, have you considered this? Or to call you out when maybe you are going in a path that is putting you first and rather than the greater good. But I think leaders all need people around them who are willing to say, hey, let's talk about this for a minute.
Wow. I think you define it all. And I think that's where sometimes we define a leader and a manager, because a leader is what you just defined, who bring people around the table, who has the courage to put it on the table and the courage to listen to people, because many often time it's uncomfortable to hear certain things. But as a leader, you are willing to be vulnerable to hear those, because you know when you hear everybody, you will make an educated decision that can benefit the team or the community at large. And when it comes to managers, are the people that think, okay, I can just make a decision without the research or the educated information to make an educated decision or a solid decision that can benefit the team or can benefit everybody. And we've seen it. And all the successful leaders around the world has always been people driven, relationship driven,
Mhm.
the willingness to be vulnerable and to listen. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the willingness to know what I don't know.
I agree with you, Ali. I think that the best, strongest leaders are those who are willing to sit around a table and listen to why they might be wrong and be willing to change their mind when new evidence is presented. So I'm curious, based on where you sit and some of the work you're doing, what are the biggest changes that you hope to see over the next few years? What are those things that keep you up at night or that you really care about?
Yeah. And I think things that keep me up at night, we already discussed. The misinformation, the misinterpretation, the negativity, the divisions, all that comes to play. And I think, as I said, we are lucky to live in a community that understands those things and that sees the good in every one of us and each of us, that put community first above everything. And I think I'm optimistic that things will continue to improve, to be inclusive, to cultivate that care that we are talking about, and to give the opportunity to everyone to contribute to this great economy and to the great community.
And I think as I look out at the modern landscape, I think that what you're talking about is actually what is most at risk for us. But, I don't think that there all hope is lost. I think there's a lot we can all do. I think people have to care, people have to get involved. You're someone who obviously cares deeply. You're obviously involved in a lot of different issues. So, what advice do you have for people who want to get involved, but maybe they're scared or maybe they're holding back or they're not sure where to start? What advice do you have for those people?
So I think the advice I have for those people is really, as you said, change is not easy, and we all have to come together, and we all have to put the common goods in front of us. And we all have also to know that opportunities is not a pie. We can all benefit from giving people an opportunity to strive, giving the people opportunity to learn and grow, giving people the opportunity to be part of the change we are looking to make. And together we can all strive. Everyone that is here today are really part of this great nation, great country, and are hoping to do the best they can to make it for everyone. I was reading recently and I came across an inspiration that, like, it's inspiring vision, a global perspective allows leader to articulate a vision that resonates both locally and globally, inspiring people to think beyond immediate boundaries. So that immediate boundaries is what we are talking about here. And that's where we are talking about leadership. And that's where I always said, and recently during my speech in Jeffrey, New Hampshire for Martin Luther King Day, where I emphasize on opportunity and where I also talk about the pre-judgment. People don't take the time to know people before even they talk about them or before they judge them. So I think it's very important to take the opportunity to know your community, to know your neighbors, to know your coworkers before you say anything
Yeah.
that can jeopardize their reputation or their ability to progress or to be given the opportunity that they desire.
Yeah.
So to those young leaders, I will say to have your life blueprints, as Martin Luther King said, so that you can plan ahead to know what is most important here. What are my priorities? What are my vision, my mission on this life or in this community? And then try to implement it and try to surround yourself with good leaders that uplift you. Because I think relationship is something that we cannot emphasize enough. There's nothing greater than having the ability to build a trusted relationship with your neighbors and with your community and with your team.
What if I'm somebody who wants to get involved and be more involved in my community? Where do I start?
Also, try to identify in your community who are those leaders. First, you know what you want to do. So either it's your local church or mosque or local food pantry or wherever. Identify in your community those leaders and send them a text, email them, have a coffee, talk to them, share with them your desire to be involved, ask for their advice, for their guidance. And many of the leaders out there, that's what they are looking for because they can see the passion that you are bringing when you make the first move. There is no such small involvement. Every involvement that helps the community to be a better community is worth trying. Try to identify or talk to your neighbors or talk to your coworkers, share with them what you want to do. And then they will guide you because there is a lot to do.
I love that idea though, like to reach out to people who are already doing the work, the people you see their faces, around your community, in the newspaper, wherever, right? Recognize those people in your church, your mosque, etc. Who are those people that are already leading community
Chemicals.
efforts? Yeah. And then see where you can support, where you can fit in. I agree with you, Ali. I think, the grassroots effort, community efforts at the local level are so important and will continue to be so important, and we need people who are willing to get involved and also people who are willing to be courageous out there, right? Because I think I've heard from a lot of people who there seems to be some fear that's holding people back. And I was just having this conversation the other day, and I want to share the idea of courage. And there's this misconception that to be courageous means that you have to let go of fear. But the reality is that to be courageous is to feel the fear and do it anyway, do the right thing anyway, regardless of what it feels like on the inside. Nobody did something courageous without feeling fear. It just doesn't work that way.
Wow. And you said it all. Whenever you are in your comfort zone, you don't talk about courage. Courage is when you are out of your comfort zone, knowing that what you want to do now or you are planning to do might face challenges, but you know it's a common good. You know it's best for the team or for the community because every successful leader out there has been those people that are ready to face those challenges, but also are humble enough to bring those partners, those collaborators, and to network because it's all part of that learning and that leadership.
Well, this has been a wonderful conversation. Again, I'm so appreciative of you. I know you're super busy. And so just to have you on and to hear how you're thinking about this stuff is so helpful. For people who are interested in following you and following your work, where can we find you?
I'm on LinkedIn, of course, Facebook, and I have a website as well, Vote Sekou. And of course, I work for this great organization, New Hampshire Housing, where I travel throughout the state to talk about the resources available at New Hampshire Housing for all granite staters. So I'm out there and I have many friends and family out there that you can reach out to at any time as well. And it's Ali Sekou for my LinkedIn and for my Facebook as well. But I do have something to share with you.
Yeah, please.
When we combine global insight with local knowledge, leaders can bridge gaps, drive progress, and create sustainable solutions that resonate with their within their communities.
Mhm.
They said service act as a catalyst for meaningful change because it fosters connection, empathy, action, which are essential for addressing challenges and creating a positive impact. So I think, as I said earlier, we have rights, but we also have responsibility. And that
Yeah.
responsibility is the service that I'm talking about here. Service act, acts as a catalyst for meaningful change because it fosters connection, empathy, and action. So I think I invite everybody to be involved in their local communities. Are involved.
Yeah. If you're looking for shared purpose, if you're looking to find meaning in the world, I think service is that thing that takes you outside of yourself and it helps you stop thinking about just yourself, because to serve, I think inherent in service means to serve others.
It's not about you when you are elected. It's about the community and a service, as we're talking about. Any public servant has to have that ability to balance that, to know what they don't know, to be fervent listeners, and to be people that take the feedback necessary for the common goods.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Ali. Thank you so much for your time today. Thank you for your friendship. And I look forward to continuing to serve with you across the community and continuing to make a difference. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm looking forward to what is next. Appreciate your time.
Take care.